Welcome to another YC Wisdom Pod. We have Ayush Srivastava. Hope I'm pronouncing that right.
You
Ayush
got
is
it.
a co-founder and head of AI at Caseflood.ai. So you can go check them out at Caseflood.ai. It helps you double your conversion rate. So you can check out the demo in a second. I'll share my screen. It's pretty cool. And yeah, they launched that about 10 months ago. So it's still very early stage, but yeah,
Mhm.
very bright young team. So I'm just eager to jump right into it. Ayush, nice to have you on. Tell me a bit more about yourself and yeah, what you've been up to as of late.
Yeah, thanks, Charles. Thank you for having me. Really excited to be part of the conversation. And yeah, so like you said, we launched about 10 months ago. We are Winter 25 Y Combinator batch. We're part of that. So we started that in January. We came to San Francisco for that. And yeah, since then have been here, have been in San Francisco, building, shipping, selling, and it's been great fun so far.
Nice. Well, great to have you on here. I see that you are originally from Bangalore, right? So, how was that process to get in the US and yeah, just to adapt to the culture? How was it for you?
Oh yeah, so I mean, it is pretty funny because I actually don't know where I'm originally from, but it's because I've just been moving around a lot in my life. I was born in India, but I grew up in Uganda, just to give like some bit more background context. And so a lot of my formative years were spent in East Africa, and so I kind of was already used to culture shock, even when I didn't know what culture shock was. Because at the age of 10, when you go to a new country, you only have to speak English. It's the people are different than you. The food is different, the weather and the climate. So I kind of already had that experience when I was growing up, which I feel very fortunate to have because I think that prepared me really well for my life in the coming years. And so grew up in Uganda. I came back to India to do my higher education. Then, like you said, I worked in Bangalore for 5 years, pretty much, the Silicon Valley of India. So, that's where you are when you work in tech. Worked there for 5 years, and then I was basically planning to come for my master's a bit earlier, but again, due to COVID, I had to push those plans a bit. But I'm glad I did because it gave me a good exposure in India, and then I came to the US in fall of 2023 for my master's in AI at Carnegie Mellon University. And so, and after that, that brings us here.
And how were you as a kid? You were like an avid linguist, even up to this day, geography geek, and yeah, also like you like doing sports, you know. So
Yeah.
how were you, and how did that lead you to who you are today?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think the three key elements of my personality are right there. Linguist, geography, and sports. Um, Well, the very first thing I got into was probably sports because, like I said again, when I was growing up in Uganda, I always used to play cricket in India mostly. But then when I came to Uganda, we started playing like football, soccer, all of that. And so I got into it then, and I have been playing that ever since. Loved the rush you get when you, you're running and you're exercising and your mind feels great, like the dopamine right after it. So have always been a big fan of that. Again, the linguistic part also brings me back to Uganda because I had to start learning a new language. Well, I mean, English was still not my. I didn't really actually know English that well when I was 10, and so when you're forced to be in an environment where you only have to speak English, like no one can understand you otherwise, that learning process becomes so much faster, which is like a thing that I've noticed and carried forward in my other life journeys as well. Like if you make the journey a little bit more, like if you step out of your comfort zone, you definitely learn quicker. There is no better way to learn than stepping out of your comfort zone. Like how they say that uh, newborn kids, they know how to swim. You just, if you throw them in the water, they figure it out some way. That was how it was for me when I was in Uganda and I was trying to learn English. And I realized that, yeah, you can come out of the other side like stronger, smarter. And so that was the linguistic part of it. The geography part of it, again, is because I've been like lucky enough to travel to different places. I think I've already covered six continents, essentially, actually five. South America is left and Antarctica is left. But apart from that, I've traveled and so my idea was I want to learn more about the place by being there, and so that also brought out the geography nerd in me. And so yeah.
And you decided to become a data ethicist, which is ethical data scientist. That is pretty rare, right? But it's becoming more trendier as time goes, and AI is growing on us, right? So tell us a bit more about that part.
Yeah, I think the very first thing I decided when I was going into data science and machine learning was I need to do it with a certain level of ethicality, and I think this comes from just my upbringing or with my parents. But the way I thought of it was especially with artificial intelligence, it like depends a lot on how you give what direction you give it, and so there has to be a sort of a morality or an ethicality to it, and someone has to be the flag bearer for it, because it's very easy to get caught up in and not give any attention to that. And that was the reason why I also did a lot of fraud detection in India's one of the largest the e-commerce sectors. And I did that because I wanted to apply my data science and machine learning skills to a actual cause uh, that has real impact. And yeah, I think it's getting more and more trendier, like you said. So yeah.
And do you feel AI is headed the right way? Because a lot of people say it's biased, but I think most algorithms are not biased. It's just like how society is and where truth is most of the time. Of course, there are
Exactly.
some exceptions, but I think if your algorithms are not going in the way of truth, I think you're doing yourself and your customers a disfavor. I think it's just normal humans that are like, oh, because my name is Devonte, it shows on my CV, or because I'm 65 year old, and it's sort of offensive that an AI is not like picking me. I think they get a bit mad, while
Yeah.
statistically these things make sense. What is your thought on that?
Yeah, I think the very first thing I thought about it, and this again ties back to the ethicality point, is uh, any technology, but especially artificial intelligence, is kind of like holding up a mirror to society. You see the reflection of what you've manifested and what you've brought into society so far, and that's even like more true. As I said, it's true for every technology, but it's definitely true for artificial intelligence. And the way I think about it is like you said, it it's representing the true nature of society. It's not doing something wrong. But I do believe by having these conversations about biasness, about feedback loops, about all these gaps, we are moving in the right direction. And so we are moving in the right direction, not just in the field of AI, but then again, because it's a mirror, hopefully we're moving in the right direction as a society as well, because this forces us to like think about how have we been judging people, how have we been discriminating people. It could be subconsciously, it doesn't need to be conscious discrimination, but the fact that it still exists, and maybe through this technology and through trying to improve AI, we also improve ourselves, and that's the feedback loop I'm hoping for as we go forward.
Right. And is that responsibility on enterprises, or is it more on like social workers, or is it a mix of both?
Well, with most of the things, like it's a mix of both, but I definitely want to call out enterprises more than anything, because especially in this day and age, so many things are being driven by large corporations, and it's not like they don't realize the effect they have on us, but it's almost like they don't have to care about it, because they're not, well, they're still held accountable for a few things, but they're not held accountable for as much as they should be. And so, if I were to point at one place, I would definitely say it's large enterprises. Uh, and it also comes back to the fact that who has more resources to utilize these artificial intelligence. Like we are doing it at our level, like as a startup also we're doing it, and so we also have an obligation, but the reach we have versus the reach a large enterprise has is different. But our idea at even at Caseflood is the fact that we have to be ethical and moral from the very beginning, because especially with our field, like the legal field, uh, you cannot really have it any other way, and I wouldn't have it any other way, and our team wouldn't have it any other way. And so we wanted to start here, but I know that it's harder to maintain the ethicality and morality probably as you grow bigger, but that's what should happen, and that's what people should be held accountable for.
Right. And what do you feel will happen to the job market? Shouldn't that be like the full focus of ethics in AI? Like I very much believe at the 99.9% certainty that this thing is going to wreck the market and it's going to
Hmm.
permanently replace jobs and render most humans useless.
Hmm.
Granted, their IQ and EQ, like most people, they prefer comfort and low hanging fruits. They're not like hard workers and don't go towards Spain like most founders do.
Yeah.
What is your take on that? And yeah, the ethics of slashing that many jobs.
Yeah, I think disruptions have always been there. Like, this is just a cycle that we're following, and at this point, the cycle is led by AI. But this doesn't mean that there haven't been disruptions before. There were disruptions even when, uh, like all the way back to when horse carriages were replaced by cars. Like, people thought, what's going to
But we're
happen then?
recreating brains nowadays, which is more than
Yes.
just an automation. It can think,
Mm.
it can be creative, and it can work while we sleep at
Mhm.
10,000x level.
Hmm. Well, so the way I think about it is like the my personal belief is like organic and natural is always better than artificial, be it food, be it intelligence. And so the way I think about it is
Interesting.
the AI takes instructions from us, but we take inspiration from it. And the reason is that the AI isn't that at that sentient level where it takes inspiration. I may, maybe some years down the line, may have to bite my own words, but I feel like the whole idea is like the AI can take instruction, but we can take inspiration. And so we need to realize that we're in that seat, in that power. Of course, the job market is going to be rattled, but and I know because not everyone is going to be affected the same way. Some people who might not be at the forefront of the technology, because and it's not their fault, they just like for example, when I look back and think about my friends in Uganda right now, they have they rarely have access to good internet, right? I can't expect them to be well versed with everything that's going on in the world of AI, but it'll be really sad if they're the kind of peoples who get affected by it, right? And so that is where the obligation comes, where we shouldn't just think about, if we're trying to think about the ethicality and legality of it, we shouldn't just think about, oh, I should save my job, but we should think about, leave our privileges and entitlement aside and think about all the different people that will be affected in all the different ways, and then see how we can help them, because it has to be a solution for the common and the collective, not just for an individual.
Right, and I think there should be multiple safe zones for AI. So laws would be one. A second would be probably data centers. If
Mm.
an AI is growing and using too many resources, could be limited at that level, right? And then I don't know, maybe an AI to tell us about these consequences, right? Of you taking much more than your fair share of the pie, what
Yeah.
kind of consequences it would have. Ultimately, I think it would affect you.
Yeah.
Also, like we're gonna discover many weird things about the world, the laws, and how it behaves. But don't you think we can just infuse the laws of evolution into an AI to make it sentient, agentic, and just have it go fetch, like have it goals and just it constantly evolve trying to reach these goals without like any intervention? Like I'm pretty sure there's already a bunch of companies attempting that. Like the first agentic solution, forgot what it was called a couple of years ago, but I think that had some kind of evolutionary goal setting pattern into it.
Mm. Yeah, and I feel the way I think about evolution in general is basically, it is ultimately a reward based system, right? Like, even from us, we were basically, evolution rewarded you with, or like, you were surviving, you were fighting for survival, and then if you evolved, that gave you like a beneficial, sort of like an advantage, right? And that gave you a reward that you survived and you existed and you procreated. And so that thing has already always been there in AI. Like if you just look at any sort of like a loss function, right, or cross entropy or anything, those are all rewarding good behavior and punishing bad behavior. And so that is the basic principles of evolution according to my understanding at a very, very, very core level. Not in the, it's just then it also comes down to the fact that you have like Maslow's triangle, and you're like, where are you in terms of that triangle? But the very first stuff about the basic needs, that is still part of the reform, like the reward system of an AI even now. It's just that it's at a very small scale where the reward is just, hey, get this function right or get this prediction right. Uh, but it's always been there. Like that's the basis of it.
Yeah, it's serotonin, it's dopamine and the lack of it. And it's antagonist, which could be cortisol, I guess, and a bunch of
Hmm.
other biochemicals in us humans. But isn't that the scary part as well? Because us humans were always like prioritizing ourselves, right? Like over nature, let's say, like we're
Yeah,
very
yeah,
dominant and invasive
yeah.
species. Like what if that AI is an extension of that? That would it
Yeah.
want to make us like second grade citizens pretty quick?
That's what I meant when it say that AI more than ever is holding the technology, holding the mirror to the society. And so the way I think about it is like, yeah, I would. It's very easy to be selfish, but you know, I want to be the person who makes those little changes and little sacrifices, and is like not wasting his food or his putting his compost correctly or stuff like that. Like I don't know how, but I wish if the AI were to learn from human behavior, it learns from these behaviors as well. And that's my hope, and that's my attempt. That when I do something like this, other people also do something like this. Like they become less selfish, and they try to understand that this is for a greater good. And hopefully, by the time that the AI is at the stage where it can replicate human sentience, it has a good human as an example to do that, or like a good population as an example to do that.
Right. And I think most of us intend well, but I think
Yeah,
sometimes our lack of IQ and EQ is limiting us, right? Like most of the
yeah,
time when we're just naive about a bunch of things, right? Like environment just being a one
yeah.
example. But yeah, I think we have mostly good in us, which is a very broad and philosophical thing to say. I want to take the rest of the time to talk about case flood here.
Mhm.
So, how did you get the idea? How was YC for you? And what's the pain point that you're fixing right now?
Right. So our CEO Ethan has a very solid background in legal, like working with legal tech, and so even when he was in high school, I think he had a business which was returning, giving great returns when he would just basically um, you know help connect lawyers with leads. And so it was a very great way for him to get into the whole space. I met Ethan when I was at Carnegie Mellon, and he introduced me to this idea, and then we spoke about the different technological feasibility and aspects of it. And so yeah, basically that's where we started working on it. We worked on it for 2 months before YC, and then we applied to IC. We got in. It was like experience of getting into IC itself was a surreal experience. But when we actually came to San Francisco, I saw so much like top level talent right in front of us. That was like, sometimes it's easy to be overstimulated and be numb to it. And so that's what I had to always do, and just remind myself that it's crazy that the odds of you and so many other people with such high talent and caliber being in the same room, it's something like only a YC batch can do. And so yeah, that's how it went for us.
Yeah, the process of getting in as well, like being paired with a couple of mentors. What kind of feedback did you receive so far, and do you feel that you have a product market fit coming at you?
Yeah, so we do believe that we are very close to getting something that everyone in the legal industry want. We've already got proof that people really, really want this. So, and again, going back to, I don't think I answered the question of what problem we're trying to solve, but essentially,
Yeah.
it's the biggest problem that legal or like just lawyers have, which is intake. And intake is a huge, because it's basically, it's literally the start of your funnel. And if you do not handle the start of your funnel well, you lose out on so many prospective clients. And this is where we're coming into the fact that a lot of AI is just a little bit better at some of the things. And we're trying to make a good happy marriage between a human receptionist and an AI, and make sure that uh, a law firm never misses any of the calls that are coming to them for intake. And so that's the problem we're solving. And on the feedback part of it, like we said, one of the biggest things that we got to know from YC was uh, like how to not get rattled by competition, basically. Because we heard this a lot of times, but then we faced it recently as well, where people are either trying to clone our website and our product, or they're trying to clone our idea. And I guess they say imitation is the best form of flattery, but it is kind of like it sends you into a bit of a panic. But our group partners and our mentors were, they always reminded us that companies don't die through competition. There are other several things that can kill a company before competition ever gets to you. And so knowing all of that, experiencing all of that, that has been one of the biggest takeaways from YC, for me at least.
I think Rocket Internet was quite infamous for doing that, right? Like in Africa, they would,
Hmm.
in all other markets that weren't explored by like common companies. And
Right.
I think GTM makes a huge difference. It's not only products, like how you outreach to these people and how do you get faster clients faster than they do. And yeah, lawyers can sometimes be hard to reach.
Hmm.
And to convince, right? A lot of
Yeah,
them are not tech savvy. So how
exactly.
have you been managing go to market, and yeah, what channel, and how successful has it been to onboard all of these lawyers pretty fast?
So the first thing I want to talk about is the channel. So our CEO Ethan is actually pretty good, really good at having a LinkedIn presence. His posts go viral all the time. The only problem is lawyers are not always on LinkedIn. And so it's funny because like we have all these impressions and engagements, but very few of them are actually leads. But that's fine, because like these are all part of the overall cycle. And like you said, for us at the go to market, one of the things that we think about is our ideal customer profile is a lawyer who is uh, early adopter of technology, not just our technology, but just technology in general. And it's very easy to get a sense of that, especially now that we've been doing it for a while, when you speak to them and you see like the kind of questions they ask, or the kind of issues they have, right? If someone is asking you, hey, will this AI steal my data and stuff, they're still very behind in terms of the maturity. Like they don't know all the different things that can be done. It's not, they still ask you if the model is being trained on their data, when that's like, yeah. But then you've got people who are asking more mature questions about the level of hallucination, or how predictable its outcomes are and stuff like that. And like that's how you get a sense of who's a good customer to work with versus who isn't. And I think that's been a good way for us to filter out, because we do believe that, like, we've always worked with people who are more early adopters, and we found that the best way for us to go. And then they become really good champions for us later down the line. And once someone in the lawyer community who is a champion for us says something good about us to even someone who's not a tech savvy person, they will still we still have their trust. And so that's how it works.
Right. And how did you guys reacted to someone cloning your company?
Oh, it was funny because like I told you, by this time we were like pretty confident about our abilities and about what we have to offer. I think Ethan, our CEO, made a LinkedIn post about it. So I think that was the
Yeah, it's
best
just
way to.
pretty damn good.
Yes, yes. So that was the best way to go about it, I would say. Face it up front. We did internally also decide that, what we should do is kind of go back and revamp our website just to see if they'll copy it again. But also because it'll be like a new design. It's a good reason for us to redesign the website. So yeah.
Right. Very cool. So what's next for you? What are your top goals for this year? What do you want to achieve, deploy?
Yeah, so like after YC, we've basically been head down, hard at work, shipping, building new features, and the idea is essentially to grow rapidly, to make Caseflood a very household name in the legal industry, which like you said, like from this LinkedIn post and the cloning and everything, we're already seeing that happening, and we want to keep doing that. And while we're doing it, and so the other thing is, like, we're working on a uh, im- a very interesting application of AI, which is voice AI. And so the idea is to make sure we push the frontiers and the boundaries in the field of voice AI as well. And Yeah, hopefully grow rapidly, grow fast, and keep doing the good thing.
Nice. Ayush, thanks for being on today. Where can people
Thank
find
you,
out more
Charles.
about you?
Yeah, my LinkedIn. Actually, I'm not that much of a social person in general, but I do have a LinkedIn and Twitter. But again, I don't post that much, so that's pretty much what I have. But you would definitely be able to find me on LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to connect with people from across the globe, because this is another thing that has happened after YC and after Case Flood is I've been able to connect with a lot of people, like all the way from Uganda, Kenya, from that time to China when I was doing my semester abroad there. Like, all those people have reached out to me, and I've been happy to talk to them. Versus then also, like, building a community here in SF, and so happy to always connect with people, chat with anything that is like latest trends in voice AI in general, ethical data science, everything.
So that was Ayush and Charles for another